Welcome to Camera Mic Action. Chris, I'm your host. It's February 15th, 2026. Just doing a video here today in regards to situation where the F-35 versus the Gripen SAAB and which way should Canada go. Well, there's a couple of reasons why myself personally, I know some other people probably share the same outlook as to why we don't want to go with the F-35. Here, here's an example right here. Right there. That aircraft was 25 years ahead of its time. And who helped kill it? The United States. And same with if you look at this more recent, in this first term, when Bombardier came out with a C-100 passenger jet and had American orders for it, and Boeing went to the White House and said, well, with trade, it's going to be unfair, and nobody had a plane to go into that market, so Bombardier built the plane for that specific market. And what did they do? They put 300% tariffs on it. Killed the project. But they sold, you guys think Trump thinking he's so smart. They sold it to Airbus for $1, $1 Canadian at that. And they're flying today. So, but Canadians are still building, but they have plants in the States building the aircraft too. It's a great aircraft. It's the top of on the technology side of things. It's up there. This aircraft here was 25 years ahead of its time. What came out of it, and what did the Americans use? Fly-by-wire. You see, if you look at there's no pylons for missiles. It's all in here. It's all in the internal bay. That bay can be converted to drop conventional weapons, air-to-air, air-to-ground. It was configured to do a lot of things. This thing was with the engines that it had, not the Iroquois engines, but the engines that they put in it. This plane was faster than the F-18 is today, and that was back then. And that's a sore spot for some Canadians. That was a superior airplane, 25 years ahead of its time. It was the only aircraft on the planet that could intercept the U-2 at the time. And the United States said Canada can't have it. That was part of the reason they pressured our government to get rid of it. And then saying the bullshit that interceptors are a thing of the past. Everybody's going to missiles. We got this Beaumark missile system that we're going to use, and it's the best thing since sliced bread, and it was a piece of crap. So, when it comes from the F-35 versus the Gripen, I'd take the Gripen all day long because of a few things. One is we get to build it in Canada, so we're going to get some of our jobs back that we lost. About 12,600 there, you figure. It's better suited for cold weather. Non-prepared runways like highways. The F-35 is a princess of an aircraft. It can't handle the cold. It hasn't proven itself. It's got one engine, at least with the Gripen. It has different variations. It's been out through a number of years. And now the Rolls-Royce is coming into play for the aircraft. So we're not going to be tied to any country. So we're going to have the license to manufacture it, and manufactured probably for other countries. So it's going to be good for the economy. If you look at some of the rhetoric that's coming out of the United States, hey, don't get me wrong, I love the States. Route 66, my wife went on a trip there a few years back. Best of times. Your museums are great. People are great. It's just when it comes down to sovereignty, when it comes to defense, there's a line there now. Canadians don't want to be dictated by another country that we can have a fighter or we can't have it. And if anybody thinks that there's no secret kill switch, it doesn't need a kill switch. If you don't get along with the United States for some reason and you have an F35, they're just not going to give you the new updates. And then the thing's a paperweight. At a very expensive paperweight. So there's going to be the jobs. It's going to be cheaper operating costs. Much cheaper. Like, you're talking $18,000 an hour, if that, versus $35,000 to $50,000 an hour on an F-35. Can't take off on unprepared runways. So that's that. I'm gonna play a clip here, and this is the American ambassador to Canada, and he was going on a thing about trust. It was quite interesting about saying how we should trust Americans when it comes to this sort of thing.
Present an agreement to move forward, and I absolutely.
Why would Canadians trust that framework when there was an entire other agreement in place that your president then contravened on multiple instances?
Yeah, there is no doubt. Okay, and I think you got to be very, very careful with the word trust. Okay, I spent a lot of time on our national security issues. Okay, at one time in 2014, NATO met, and every country in NATO unanimously committed and pledged to spend 2% of their GDP on national security.
Okay, he's right. Canada's been lacking behind. There's no two ways about it. But you don't go after a country's jobs by saying we don't need anything from Canada. We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need anything. Well, you know what? You don't need our fucking money either then. I think that's where we have to draw the line and go, well, we'll get our own fighter planes. Thank you very much. We'll get our own missile defense systems. Thank you very much. And take your Golden Dome and shove it up your ass. Why? Because you're not shooting the missiles down over your country. You're going to be shooting them down over ours. And that's always the way it's going to be. So don't give me this stuff about trust. Because if you're friends with the United States when it comes down to the military aspect of things, well, they can turn on you in a heartbeat. Well, I just look at what happened in Venezuela. Venezuela wasn't a threat to you. Look what you're doing to Cuba. Cuba's not a threat to you. Instead of reaching out to Cuba and trying to help them, you're trying to crush them. And you mentioned about coming after, and Greenland. Don't forget Greenland. And that's bullshit. Oh, you need it for defense. You got a base there, a big one. We used to fly there, probably still do, and resupply Alert. If anybody doesn't know what Alert is, it's one of the most northern tips of Canada you can get, and that was to monitor all the traffic coming over the pole from Russia. And while I'm going to segue to Russia for just a second. Why did you, if back then you know the bullshit story about this, why'd you come up with the F-22, the F-35? And when the Iron Curtain came down, I was in the military at that time in the 80s. And when the Iron Curtain came down, Putin wanted to become part of NATO. And, you know, the surrounding countries, the old Warsaw Pact countries, were not supposed to be part of NATO. But the ink wasn't even dry when you when these other countries started to become part of NATO. So Ukraine was the line in the sand. But just go back a bit. So Putin and Russia wanted to become part of NATO, and it was like, no way. Well, why is that? Why wouldn't you let them? Because it was a self mechanism for Russia to play nice with everybody else. But the West needed a boogeyman. So, you know, you look at warmongers like Lindsey Graham, who said, you know, he said right on TV, money well spent in Ukraine, there's nothing better than a dead Russian. Really? Really, Mr. Graham? That's how you think? Well, Russia's been pretty patient and very restrained. And I think you should respect that. Because if you went toe to toe to Russia, you will lose very badly. And that's the same with Iran too. You start poking Iran, it's going to take out Israel, and you can forget your ships because they'll get them. And I'm not pro anything or anti-American. That's just the facts. Just the facts. So getting back to this clip here, I'm going to play a little bit more.
I don't have a question in terms of on a day in and day out basis. Do I trust the Canadians?
Well, we do.
I believe we can trust the Canadians and we can work with the Canadians.
We have a problem with trust with you guys because you haven't given us any reason why. And, you know, guys that have got some age, I don't like why. There's a reason why. That, look what's happened with Bombardier. Oh, we're going to, not certify the plane. Well, if you're not sharing the technology, then they're not certifying it.
Am I disappointed that they're well short of their commitment on NATO?
Yeah, I agree with that.
The answer is yes, I am. They committed to that just like the U.S. and they haven't. But does that mean that I go home or I tell my colleagues in Washington, you can't trust the Canadians? No, that has not crossed my mind.
I think that's a fair point. I think I've
That's fair.
Of course, it's a fair point.
No, I think I've interviewed countless defense ministers about our record on that and the fact that we have not met our commitments. Right. But this is your president signing an agreement and then contravening it himself, and in the meantime, in the interim, saying that he would use economic force to annex us. I think it would be almost naive of us to not at least raise the question of trust in moving forward in an economic partnership. Would it not?
Well, good point, but look what's happening with Cuba, right? Let's cut off all their fuel. You guys meant, Trump administration said when Doug Ford was talking about cutting off electricity, oh, that's an act of war. Well, you're cutting off a lifeline for a country, a poor country at that, is denying them fuel. So they can't run generator. Well, the whole island's run on big generators, so you can't run generators for the hospital. There's no fuel for aircraft to get them in and out. They've got rolling blackouts. So you're willing to do it with weaker countries, and you're getting a lot of practice at it. And that's why that's why she's basically saying, about the trust thing.
That's a question that you can ask amongst Canadians, all right? But if you ask me, can Canada trust America? It's kind of like, yeah, I think so.
Not really.
I don't think so. I know so, all right? There's a deep history going back between our two countries, all right? We fought side by side on the beaches of Normandy. There are...
Well, yeah, but Canada took the brunt of it. Don't forget, you guys came around the end of it.
Lots of Americans of Dutch descent who were liberated by Canadian troops, including my parents. No, I believe you can trust us. I trust Canada. Are there issues that need to be resolved in a constructive way that I think the president and the prime minister demonstrated a couple of weeks ago that they can move forward? Yeah, I think so. I'm confident they can.
Is the objective, just final question, is the objective from your vantage point that all tariffs on both sides are removed? Like, is that, I feel as though Canadians have not really gotten even a clear answer from the federal government. Like, what is the end goal of all of this? Is it to go back to what it was before tariffs?
Well, the president has made it clear that there will probably be a tariff on every country that we do business with. Okay, I mean, he's campaigned on that and has said that. I think what I would hope that Canadians would be striving for is to lay out all the things that Canada has, the capability, critical minerals, automotive, energy. You go right down the list, things that we can work together on, defense, fentanyl, stopping the number of deaths in both of our countries from fentanyl.
Okay. Fentanyl? Yeah, well, we don't see much of that anymore. That's kind of like you don't hear about it anymore. But what about all the illegal guns that are coming across from the United States? Right? Like, let's look tit for tat. You guys got all sorts of illegal guns coming across into this country, and what are you doing about it? Right? So, and then fentanyl. And you're saying fentanyl was coming across those boats in Venezuela. Really? You got any proof of that? I thought basically you're supposed to do interdiction and then seize it, if that's the case, not blow it out of the water. Oh, and then there's two survivors that are clinging on to a boat, so you hit them again. Well, then it comes down to the trust thing, right? Comes down to the trust thing. So you guys are hanging on to the side of wreckage of a boat, so you blow them up. So why wouldn't you go and rescue them? Interrogate them if that's the case. No, let's just blow them up. We're going to build a case. So, so around the world, your name isn't, for far as trust is, not very trustworthy. How's that?
That we can come together with a deal that gives Canada the lowest tariffs of any country that America negotiates an agreement with.
So if we had zero tariffs, which apparently Carney took off, but you're still going to have tariffs on us. How's that fair?
No tariffs, but the lowest.
The lowest.
Okay, Ambassador.
And if that could be zero, but I mean the president I think has indicated there will be tariffs.
Okay, Ambassador.
Okay, so there will be tariffs. What do we have? What does Canada have? We got an idiot running the country. That's what we have. So I'm not basically beating up in the United States. I'm just telling, basically, from my point of view, we have an idiot running our country. Should he open up the doors to certain things? Absolutely. Why not? But our car industry is basically decimated. So the dairy cartel, do I agree with that? I don't know much about it, but I think that's basically it's to keep the prices up in this country. I know that's the fact, but even when you look at the tariff part of it, this part I know is Americans haven't even reached the threshold to buy Canadian dairy products for the tariff to even trigger. They haven't bought that much, so the tariff is there, but you haven't bought the threshold to trigger the tariff, right? So we don't have any cars anymore. That's all gone to the United States. Canada's, like I say, we're run by a bunch of idiots. So they basically turned around and gave Stellantis $13 billion or $15 billion so they can turn around and open up the plant in the States for the Jeep Compass, which we were supposed to retool all those that time it was down. The plant was down in Brampton. But, hey, that's the way it goes. That's business. But when it comes to the aircraft part of it, I think this time we should basically go, not buckle under, dig in our heels, get the Gripen, get the jobs. That Gripen project is going to, in my mind, is going to be a good thing because now we're building aircraft, technical aircraft, and that might spin off into our own design. And I think that should worry the hell out of the United States if Canada decides to build its own fighter aircraft. We did it once, and it'll only be better the next time. And there'll be a lot more people this time going, any pressure for the United States will be go fuck your hat. We're not going to do that anymore. So anyway, that's my rant for this evening. And we'll get into something else later. All right, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.